Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. I gotta make a video just kind of going through this because the comments, they've been wild. And this is in relation to a video I posted recently, a short called Jail. There was actually another video that posted the whole interaction with that officer. And the comments that I've been getting, first of all, there's a lot of just trash. You can tell people are really lacking an understanding of humanity when it comes to interactions with not just law enforcement, but probably people in their lives in general. But so this is basically how the interaction began.
Morning.
Missed all the signs back here?
Sorry?
65 and a 35.
It was 35? Honestly, I just left the hotel.
Okay, well, you're
Truth be told, sorry about that.
That means you go to jail, so pull up here to the next parking lot.
I'm sorry? I gotta take my earplugs out. I can barely hear you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I could barely understand what you're saying.
You're doing 65 or 35. You're going to 35, so
I did not know that. I'm very sorry. So, I've been coming from Boulder.
I don't care. I need your license and vehicle information.
Now I posted an entire video about why I thought the officer's approach was just kind of tactically bad and in general just kind of a bit extra. So with that said, I am not discounting the fact that I was speeding. The cop had me dead to rights. Man, the number of comments that I see from people that say you never turn your cameras off are really lacking a certain context. And I think a lot of this comes down to me being old enough to understand a world pre-social media. I think anybody who's maybe 30 and younger is probably just so accustomed to record everything being the answer to everything, not growing up through an era when you actually had to use your people skills to get through controversy and difficult situations. But then there's also, I think, an older crowd that is so corrupted by Facebook conspiracy theory reposts. Some crazy uncle posted on their Facebook page, they read it and they're like, it's gotta be real. I read it on Facebook.
Hey, Stan. My computer says we're not friends anymore.
F off, Dad.
Just to be clear, you and I are not friends.
All right, Dad, I'll add you.
There's so much trash out there, and it's clear to me that people are so lost in the trash that they've forgotten how to approach basic human interaction, and it really blows my mind. So with that, I do want to address some of the comments that I'm getting on these videos. One of the comments I've seen the most is, never turn off your cameras.
I need your license and vehicle information.
Turn my cameras off.
I've seen the comments from people who say you always leave your camera running because your attorney is going to want that. I left that traffic stop not needing an attorney because I was cognizant enough of the situation that was happening around me to take control of the situation and try to calm things down. My first step in doing that was I understood that this officer told me that I was under arrest and I was going to jail. I sort of heard that. I wasn't sure if I heard it correctly, but I got the gist of it. So that interaction started with me being under arrest and me going to jail. There was zero benefit to me recording any more of that interaction. Now you could say, oh, well, what if he was going to beat the tar out of you, whatever the case may be. I wasn't going to resist arrest. I am smarter than that. I understand that if you are under arrest, even if you think it is the most egregious arrest that's ever existed on the planet Earth, by resisting that, you're just adding more charges and making your life more difficult in the process. So for me to record my arrest, having my hands cuffed behind my back, the only value that had to me was here on YouTube for a thumbnail. In the actual real life scenario, and for most people who are not in the YouTube space, recording that interaction was, okay, he already told me I'm under arrest and that I'm going to jail. If I don't do something to change this narrative, that's what's going to happen. It was already conveyed to me that was going to happen. So in that moment, this was my ability to understand that the situation that I was in was my situation. It was not the same as what you see on national news. It was not the same as what you read on the internet. It's just not that. 99.9999% of police interactions are fine. And mine, even though it started out with that officer being very annoyed, it was still just, it was what it was. And that was the cards that I was dealt. But I am not going to just sit there and accept the fate that I am under arrest and going to jail. This is where the difference between people who are commenting, bootlicker, these nonsense comments. Of course, saying a bootlicker is someone saying like, oh, you're kissing this person's ass. No, I am in that moment doing what I need to do to get back home to my family. If you want to say bootlicker and you're going to instead go toe-to-toe with this officer on the side of the street, you're not a tough guy, you're an idiot. The tough guy way is to actually use your brain and try to navigate that situation so you can get back to the people who matter the most, which is your family. This officer, to me, is nobody. I say this respecting police because I absolutely do, but in my life, I will never see this police officer again. There is no reason for me to have some sort of roadside litigation, which I'm going to lose. You're going to lose as well. I don't care how tough you think you are. It's just not the time and place for it. So when you say bootlicker, that's oddly enough also you flat out saying you don't know how to communicate as a grown adult. The comment says it all. It's a matter of using your ability to communicate to get out of that situation and continue on down the road and not having to pay a couple grand in impound fees, attorney's fees, also getting to the point of needing bail and all of the nonsense that comes with getting arrested. I would much rather just not get arrested. So I'm going to do everything in my power to have that not happen. Again, so these trashy comments, really kind of sad. I actually feel worse for them than anything because those are people who are leading very difficult lives because of their doing and nobody else's. All right, so let's just go through here and read some of these comments. Troopers are like 99% of the worst cops ever. Again, I'll say this and I mean it fully. A lot of people lack the context of humanity in these interactions, and these troopers, again, these are people who are seeing death and destruction on the highway, things that you don't have to see, things I don't have to see, and I always approach these in that lens of respect. So with this officer, I always try to picture like, why is he coming at me like this? Maybe he's just a jerk. It's very quite possible, but it's also possible that he just saw somebody decapitated in a traffic accident the day before, and maybe that's sticking in his mind. People who say, well, these officers are supposed to be professional, they lack, again, the humanity to understand that, yes, they're supposed to be professional, but they are not RoboCop. They still are human beings, and I like to approach it that way. I think it's a healthy way to approach these situations. Here, you're not supposed to be in control of that situation, just act accordingly. I disagree. I'm not a passenger in my own destiny. This goes to the point of people saying, like, you always record everything because your attorney needs it. I didn't need an attorney because I was able to get out of that situation without being charged with that crime. So I would much rather that scenario and not need the footage because I'm smart enough to get myself out of it, or at least tried. Again, an attorney would have had zero value in the footage of me being arrested for a crime that I had committed in terms of criminal speed. What, you turned your camera off? No, never turn your cameras off when dealing with cops. People, I'm telling you, you are your own worst enemy. Again, don't turn your cameras off if you've done something that is so terrible that you absolutely are getting arrested and there is zero chance of you talking your way out of it. Leaving your cameras on is just an annoying, nudnik kind of way to make that officer just be like, whatever. Okay, you want to record me doing my job? Here, you can record me arresting you. Like, that does you no good, and it's just silly. Never ever turn your camera. That's your only protection against these. It's your right. Okay, rights. Just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you should do it. This is also clearly lost on people. Self-preservation. You have the right to call that officer a flaming pile of shit. You probably shouldn't. It's the same thing with the cameras. Yes, it's your right. You can record them, but it might be against your best interest to do it. Most attorneys are going to tell you, keep that camera running, because they're incentivized by you needing to retain them for their services, and the only way you need to retain them is if you get arrested. So they're telling you textbook information. I prefer to not need that attorney to begin with. So, and again, we can't argue with the results. You never turn your camera off, buddy. Never turn your camera off, buddy. Again, the video would have been fantastic. The thumbnail of me going hauled off to jail, however, would have cost me a boatload of money and been absolutely the opposite of what I wanted to happen. Take his speedy ass to jail. I appreciate these people who are actually saying like, hey man, you were speeding, what you were doing was dangerous. Yeah, I take full accountability for that. Cops always do this in the middle of nowhere. They have nothing else to do. I was driving through the middle of Kansas, same situation. Yeah, and that is part of it too. I mean, look, they're enforcing the laws in the areas of which they're at. If you're in the middle of inner city Chicago, there's bigger fish to fry than catching people speeding. If you're in the middle of nowhere Kansas, or in my case Arizona, those state troopers, they're responding to vehicle accidents and they're pulling people over for speeding. That's pretty much their existence. This will haunt the biker for the rest of his life. Will be something that sticks with me for sure. Should have blew off brap. Running from the police is about the most ignorant, dumb, stupid shit you could possibly do. Again, I'm 40, what am I, turning 41 soon. I've got a daughter, a wife. I've got a pretty nice life. I'm happy with that. Running from the police, yeah, sure, you can maybe get away. I've seen enough videos of people not getting away. I've also seen enough videos of people getting killed doing it. My life is far more valuable to me than outrunning a cop for a misdemeanor charge, which is a relatively minor misdemeanor, and turning that into a felony. Just the logic behind people, which a lot of this is just keyboard warrior nonsense. People that call cops pigs, I just immediately, it shows a lot of your own character. Yeah, there's so many people take personal shots at the cop. I won't do that. I mean, everybody's got their own thing going on. One thing I've noticed in these comments is there are a lot of hurt people out there, and not hurt people by cops, but just hurt people in general. And that statement, hurt people, is very true. Clearly, this video has attracted an awful lot of that. You can't be serious. That was what I thought when I heard what I heard. And that's I was like, all right, this is on me to control the situation. What an absolute turd. That's funny. I appreciate that. While you're going to jail, pull up here. I would have took off. Yeah, that was something I said in my one video going through the traffic stop. It's like, if I was a piece of trash, he gave me every opportunity to be trashy. And, the other thing I was kind of talking about was, if you were armed, that gave me an opportunity to put distance between the two of us and pull a firearm, which was also dangerous for the officer. So did you go to jail? No, I did not go to jail. I walked away with a ticket. He ended up writing me 55 and a 35, I believe is what it was, which was dismissible by traffic court. So me turning off my cameras, talking like a grown-up, going through the whole scenario of respecting his authority, because clearly that's what he wanted, and keeping my calm, cool, and collected head, while clearly the other person on the other side of this conversation was maybe not so much, is what got me from going to jail to getting I think it was $128 I had to pay for traffic school, which was complete nonsense. I learned absolutely nothing, but I did it, paid the fine, pay to play kind of thing, I guess we should call it. Went through that process, didn't even have to go to court. It's over with. Those are scenarios that would not have happened had I kept my cameras recording to capture my arrest, which would have been very stupid. You turned your camera off because his was on. Maybe you should go to jail, but not for speeding. You people, I'm telling you, it's insane. Body cameras that these officers are wearing, they don't have the ability to just delete the footage. They do, however, if I have my camera on, have the ability to actually just go in and delete that footage and say it never existed, because I don't have a law enforcement camera that doesn't have a delete button on it. Mine does. So if they were that crooked, which is what you guys are all saying, then keeping my cameras running would do me no good, because he's going to arrest me. He's going to take those cameras, take them into evidence. So if he's so corrupt to destroy his own footage, what's he going to do with mine? Mine's easier to delete than his is. So again, the flawed logic behind this is insane. And for those of you who are saying that recording is not passive aggressive, look up the definition of passive aggressive. Don't go double the speed limit when you want to have that issue. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, cops are tired of seeing dead motorcycles. Whoever defends this guy, give your okay. Yes, I was speeding. Yes, I am human. Yes, I make mistakes. I was not doing wheelies down the highway. I wasn't weaving in and out of traffic. There's a difference between letting your speed creep up to 20 miles an hour over the speed limit in a completely desolate area than there is endangering other people. And there's people I've seen in these comments that cannot decipher the two. And again, for you, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've never seen someone get pulled over like that, pulled up beside. That's why I thought that I was just getting a, hey buddy, slow it down. So I was very confused. The approach was like, hey, I'm just gonna have a quick word with this biker, but then the words out of the mouth didn't match the approach. It was very, very bizarre. So many tough guys in here who are ridiculous. You know, my favorite thing about tough guys with the cops is I've watched enough police interaction videos with these tough guys who run, and then as the cops are cuffing them, they're like begging for forgiveness or crying or.
Put my arm around, dog!
Oh, I got it. Am I ready?
Yeah.
No, let's do it again.
I'd like to.
Stop!
Bite me!
Stop!
No!
Stop, please!
No, stop! Tanner! Get on the ground now! Nope. Please! Nope. Come on, Pete. Please, bro. Stop. Put your hands off. Stop. Turnover! I'm sorry, man. 220.
The actual real number, like percentage points of actual tough guys in these scenarios is like less than 1%. The rest of them are just spineless turds who are unwilling to face consequences for their actions. And that's why in my scenario, when I got stopped, it's like, okay, first thing that is most important when you do get stopped is to check in with yourself and go, was what I was doing wrong? Okay, now I need to approach it this way, and that kind of changes your approach to how you're going to navigate that conversation. Motorcyclist is a cuck. You're a douche. Again, these tough guys in the comments, they just lack. They're their own worst enemy in these interactions. So even if you are bold and brave enough to sit there and go toe to toe with an officer, your life, again, is probably very difficult, not just with law enforcement, but any other relationship you have. And for everybody who makes up these narratives about like, oh, the cop's wife is cheating on him, so he's upset. Like I come back with another narrative like, hey, maybe the guy just had to pull a drowning child out of a swimming pool and maybe he's a little bit upset for that day. The reality of it is these officers are going call to call to call to call, and you don't know where they just came from. So I always approach it like that because I think it's fair. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to drive with earbuds on. Those were not earbuds. They're actually earplugs, and they're meant for when you're riding a motorcycle. It's loud. The earplugs, you can still hear what's outside. You just can't hear little people's voices because it kind of muffles it out a little bit, but it is not illegal to ride with earplugs. As a matter of fact, it's recommended. You lost control of the situation when you stopped. How? I left with a ticket, a minor speeding ticket. I regained control of that situation when I stopped. I'll also have you guys know that fleeing from the police, not that it ever really makes sense, again, if you've got a truck full of drugs, the fleeing charge is probably the least of your worries. So, I'm not saying you should, but just, I understand in situations when the consequences are going to be so drastic when you're like, I ain't dealing with that. But for me to run from a misdemeanor speeding charge, which at that point I didn't even realize it was, but to run from that charge, I was in an area where I was heading into a national forest with moose, deer, winding roads, trees, ditches, all kinds of dangers in the road that could very likely have killed me and would have been the dumbest thing ever. Especially, it doesn't make sense based on what it was I was dealing with. So never turn your cameras off. Okay, all right. Heated gear, is that what you're going with? Man up, you think he cares by your excuse. It wasn't, people misunderstand excuses and reasons. An excuse is like, I'm trying to say something so you just go, oh, okay, all right, move about your way. No, I'm telling you why what happened. I left the hotel and I didn't think it was that cold out, so I had my heated gear on. It was all plugged in. And when you look down to turn it on, you take your eyes off the road for a moment, and that's what happened. It wasn't an excuse, it was the reason. So, no, I don't expect him to care about it, but I do expect him to hear why what happened, and then be able to use his discretion to figure out what he wants to do in that scenario. Man, there are so many trashy people in these comments, it's embarrassing. And I will tell you that reading through these comments, if this is who police are interacting with, man, no wonder they're hot-headed, because there's a lot of nonsense in here. If I had to interact with any of these people for my job, I might have a problem with people also. So the comment section really helps provide a little bit of context to some of, again, not excuses, but reasons as to why officers are possibly the way they are in some of these conversations. Male cop Karen. You know who's more of a Karen? As all these people who are saying, you can't arrest me for speeding, never turn your cameras off, these cops are all corrupted, you need to call a supervisor. Karen, 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 Karen. All you Karens out there who are trying to veil your Karen-ness as if you're some sort of tough guy. You're just annoying nonsense. All right. So, I mean, those are a handful of the comments. You can see sort of what I'm dealing with here. Look, I'm going to tell you guys that these scenarios, yes, you have the right to record. If you are one of these people who are dropping comments down there that are saying like pig or bootlicker, keep your cameras on. You're going to need the footage because you're probably ill-equipped to actually carry on a conversation with an authority figure. So you're going to need that footage to have an attorney hopefully defend something that cop does as he's aggressively arresting you because you're a jerk. So that's not me, and I'm happy it's not me. So these rights, they're not requirements. They are tools that you have at your disposal. You can say whatever you want. You also have the right to remain silent. You can record, or you cannot record. That's where there seems to be in these comments a lack of appreciation for the control that you have in these scenarios to do or not do certain things that will change the course of that interaction. And it's just sad to me to see how many people, I don't doubt, really struggle in this area. So my hope out of posting that video, and I'm sure that it's still there, and it's kind of the same hope with this video, is that I don't expect anybody who's dropping comments down below like bootlicker or pig or any of that stuff, I don't expect you guys to get anything, quite honestly. But I do expect or suspect that there are people who watch this who might in their next interaction approach it slightly different and give themselves a better outcome, and one that doesn't require an attorney. So none of this is meant to be legal advice. If you want to live your life based on the legal advice of your counsel, sure, go for it, whatever it is. I mean, I'm just happy that I've never needed an attorney in my life. I have had many a police encounter, and I'll say that there's been a few times that dude could have gone to jail for various different reasons, and there's also reasons why that didn't happen. And again, not making excuses for my actions, but certainly trying to provide context and maybe a little bit of levity to a situation that really was pretty severe for me at the moment. So with that being said, guys, this is the last video I will make on that police encounter. It just is what it is. So with that being said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I will see you guys next time.